Chapter 2 of Clementine and the Family Meeting. Usually when I get home things get better, but not that day. "Hi, honey," my mom said when I came in the door. "Where's your hat?" My hat! I felt on top of my head. My hat! Uh-oh, what do you think happened to her hat? I love my hat. My grandmother knit it out of my favorite colors, which are all of them, and sent it to me on my birthday. When I put it on, I could almost feel her soft hands on my head. "Where is my hat?" I wailed. "I know I had it when I was leaving." So here, we go back. Here she is putting stuff on the bookcase. Remember when she was putting it on the bookcase to look for 18? "I know I had it when I was leaving." "Well then, it's either at school or on the bus. Remember to get it tomorrow. You must be freezing though. How about if we fix some hot chocolate?" When I went over to the refrigerator to get the milk out, I saw "Our Family Meeting" sign. Again, a worried feeling spread into exactly the place that I had opened up for hot chocolate. I pointed to the sign. "What's on the agenda?" I asked. Agenda is Latin for list of stuff to talk about. So when you say it, you're saving your mouth a lot of work. Plus, you sound smart. My mom took the jug from me and sniffed it, and then nodded at it with her "good job" smile, as if she was proud of our milk for not turning sour. She looked back at me. "What? Oh, the agenda." She poured some milk into a saucepan on the stove. "You'll find out tonight. Your brother's asleep on the couch. Would you go wake him, please?" I said sure, with a giant smile, in case what was on the agenda was help out more cheerfully. As I went by, I picked my wet mittens off the floor and hung them over the radiator in case it was "don't be messy with your winter clothes" on the agenda. And when I woke Acorn Squash, I sat down and said hello to his feet along with him, loud enough for my mom to hear in case it was "be more patient with your brother." And I just have to tell you, so this girl's name is Clementine, and she knows that that's the name of those little oranges, like tangerines, they call them clementines. So she calls her brother by names of vegetables, and they're always different vegetables, and we don't ever know his real name. My mom set 3 mugs and a bowl of almonds on the kitchen table, and we all sat at our places. Right away, my brother started to tell us about going sledding with Mitchell on Sunday, which is a story we have heard 300 times already. "What do we have to talk about tonight?" I tried again when he took a break. Then I said, "Please pass the almonds. Excuse me, thank you," in case it was better table manners. "The meeting's tonight," my mother said. "You'll have to wait until then to find out." I heaved such a deep sigh into my mug that my hot chocolate sloshed. Waiting is my hardest thing, especially for family meetings. Because even though my parents say they are about things we have to talk over as a family, I have noticed that they are usually about something I am doing wrong. If my father calls a meeting, it's usually about his tools, about how he needs to know where they are because of his work, and so it's important to put them back when you borrow them. Even though it's a family meeting, he looks right at me when he's explaining this. Then he says, "Oh, never mind, I forgot that I let your Uncle Frank use those vice grips last week. Sorry, Clementine." Okay, fine, it only happened that way once. The other times I get up and dig around under my bed until I find the tool my father must have dropped when he leaned over to say goodnight to me the night before. When my mother calls a family meeting, it's usually because she thinks my brother and I are eating too much junk food. She talks about nutrition for a while and says we have to feed our bodies well, and my father says, "Right, if I had a Rolls Royce, I sure wouldn't put cheap gas in the tank." Turnip and I feel so good about being the Rolls Royces of kids that we get up and pretend to throw away our gum. When we're up, we check on the candy we keep hidden in the Play-Doh box, and then we come back and say we feel a lot healthier now. Thanks, and for the rest of the meeting, Squash pretends he's a car. No matter who calls the meeting, I make sure to remind everybody of what a great idea it would be if our family got a gorilla. That's my agenda. I looked around the table. My mother and my brother were just sitting there drinking hot chocolate, crunching almonds, and laughing as if the family meeting sign was still in the junk drawer where it belonged. The worried feeling crawled through my whole body like worms. So, I said, has Uncle Frank borrowed any of Dad's tools lately? Not that I know of, Mom said. I wiped off my cocoa mustache with a napkin and took some more almonds from the bowl. We sure are eating healthy these days. We're doing pretty well, Mom agreed. Then she collected our empty mugs as if that was the end of that. My brother went off to play in the living room, and I slumped over onto the table. What's the matter? My mom asked, patting my back. Everything, I sighed. First, 18 is missing. 18? My nervous breakdown had made my mouth too tired to talk. So I pulled out my science project report and handed it over. There she is, slumped on the table, too tired to talk. And here's her science project paper. My mother read it out loud. Our class is testing different things that might make a rat learn better. They are called factors. Each team chose a different factor to test. For example, Lily and Maria are playing music for their rat while it practices the maze. Willie and Boris Morris put a television show on. That's not such a hot idea because Willie and Boris end up watching the show instead of their rat. Plus, lots of times the show is about things that might scare a rat, like cats. There sure are a lot of cats on television. Waylon and Clementine decided to find out if eating snacks would help a rat learn, because we both think that eating snacks helps us when we're trying to learn things. 18's doing great learning the maze. The only problem is that with so many treats, he's getting kind of fat. It's hard for him to squeeze through some of the tunnels. At the end, we will test all the rats against each other, and then we'll know. That's the end of her report. What a wonderful report, my mother said. I tried to lift my head from the table, but it was too tired. Waylon wrote it, I admitted. I only did the part about Willie and Boris. Well, it sounds like a good project, she said. Not without a rat, it won't be. Just then my father walked in, and suddenly my nervous breakdown was over. Oh, wow, I said, jumping up. My father was wearing his new tool belt. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my whole entire life. It was rugged looking, but made of soft, bendy leather, the color of butterscotch pudding, and covered with loops and rings and hooks and snaps. It looked like a holster for a cowboy with lots of guns. Can I try it on, please? My father poured himself a mug of hot chocolate and shook his head sadly, as though he was thinking of the most tragic tragedy in the world. Sorry, sport. This tool belt was handed down through 14 generations of the men in my family. It's a priceless heirloom. Mostly, I think my dad's jokes are funny. Sometimes, though, they are N-O-T not. Dad, we got it yesterday at Hardware Depot. Oh, right, my dad said. He drank some cocoa and then complained about how much work he had to do. There's the dad with his new tool belt and all of his tools on it, drinking his hot cocoa. My beeper's been going crazy all afternoon. Winter. The boiler's thumping, the pump's off on the 7th floor, and Mrs. Jacoby's windows are iced shut. I'll be lucky if I'm back for dinner. Don't forget the meeting tonight, my mom said. I slumped back down to my chair. Just tell me what I did wrong, I sighed. Say what the meeting's about, and I'll promise to do better. There she is, still talking to her dad. My mother sat down next to me. Oh, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. Nothing at all. Is that what you've been thinking? No, the meeting's for something else. I lifted my head and really eyed her. Really, she smiled. My dad was smiling too. I'm not in trouble, I asked them, and the meeting's not about a problem? Nope, my dad said. The meeting's about a good thing. In fact, a good surprise, something we've been waiting for a long time. I felt so relieved. I decided to try again. Then, could I try your tool belt on when you get back? Not a chance. When I get back, I'm going to have to lock it in the safe, my dad said. You see, this tool belt is a priceless treasure from the Ming Dynasty. It's irreplaceable if anything happened to it. Dad, I said, it came from Hardware Depot. You could just buy another. Oh, right, he said, but then he went off to see about Mrs. Jacoby's frozen windows, muttering about winter. One way that I am like my fruit name is that I have lots of sections. Right now, a couple of Clementine sections were worrying about 18. A few Clementine sections were thinking about that tool belt, how great it would be to try it on. A few of them were mad at my dad for thinking it was funny not to share it, but most of my sections were so happy to find out that I wasn't in trouble. My mother went into the living room to work on some drawings. My brother watched a video about bulldozers, and all afternoon I tried to guess what the good surprise was. Finally, it was after dinner. We cleaned the table, which took a while because when we weren't looking, Spinach had hidden his little toy trucks in the zitty and sat back down in our family meeting places. Our family meeting places are the same as our regular places, except that my brother has figured out that whatever the meeting is about, he and I are on the same team, so he sits on my lap. This gives me hope for him. Moisturizer jumped onto my lap too, and then my dad called the meeting to order. We are a very lucky family, he said. Very lucky. So there's her little brother, Spinach or turnip or acorn squash, whatever she calls him, sitting on her lap, so they look like they're on the same team. What's on the agenda? I asked. I'm getting to that, my dad said. Now families change. They grow. It's hard to believe, but you're 8.5 now, and your brother's almost 4. I clapped my hands over my brother's ears. Should we have a surprise party for him? You know what would make a great present? A gorilla. His birthday's not for a few months, my mom said. I vote we table that discussion for another time. Well, I also forgot to point out that the cat, her cat named Moisturizer. So Clementine, and then her brother, and then the cat. Well, so what's the good thing we have to talk about tonight? I asked. My dad looked at my mom and raised his eyebrows. My mom looked back at him and smiled. She waved her palm at him like a game show host, as if to say, "Show us these great prizes, Bill." My dad looked at my mom again, and this time he looked like he was going to cry. Not in a sad way, but in an, "I can't believe how lucky I am that you're here" way, which was nuts, because my mom is always here. There's the mom and dad. Families grow, he said again, and tonight, he stopped and smiled at my mom again. Tonight, your mother and I want to talk to you about an addition to our family. Our family is about to grow again. And then finally I figured out what he was saying. I slid Peapod off my lap and jumped up to give my dad and mom a hug. Yes, thank you. Yes, you won't be sorry. I promise. I'll take good care of it. You'll barely even notice it's here. Thank you. Cauliflower was sitting on the floor looking between me and our parents, completely clueless. I leaned over and squeezed him hard. We're getting a gorilla after all. My mom fell back against her chair laughing. Oh, Clementine, she said, it's definitely not a gorilla. I was a little tiny bit relieved. The truth is, since I got my kitten, I'm not sure I really want a gorilla anymore. That would be a really big litter box. I studied my parents. What is it then? A pony? We're getting a pony? My dad pulled me over to him and held my hands. We're talking about a new baby. A brother or a sister for you two. What do you think about that? That's the end of chapter 2.